One.
Yeah, if you could just if you could just mention that it's live on YouTube and we're recording for playback on Channel 9.
Call the FinCom Finance Committee meeting to order. And mention that we're on live streaming on Zoom and YouTube and recording for Channel 9. I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First action is we need to reorganize the Finance Committee for this year. Take nominations for, I don't even know what Ed called himself. Chairman. Any?
Peter, I gotta look up your last name, I'm sorry.
Roach.
What is it?
Roach.
Roach. I will nominate Peter Roach for chairman of the finance committee.
Any second?
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor? All opposed? Nomination for clerk?
I nominate
Jen.
Duskowski.
That's right.
Duskowski.
Mhm.
Second? All in favor? Aye, opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Both of them.
Thank you.
We'll go out of order in regards to the budget transfers because I know Board of Health has to leave shortly. So the first transfer I have is $141.09 from waste collection disposal over to salary health agent. But there was a stipend that received a bachelor's degree stipend that was not included in the original balance. Any questions for Board of Health on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Another Board of Health, $160 professional and technical, over to landfill trash. Cost of equipment exceeded the estimates. Any questions on? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it's from the town administrator's account, $14,681.81 from salary town administrator over to Board of Health. And that's a salary line as well, right?
Yes, and that is to the overtime additional hours.
The description, deficit, and transfers directly related to the town's COVID response for FY21, but it was the difference in getting the hours from 28 to 35, and then overtime is being reimbursed.
Yes. Yeah, through the CARES Act, but we just have to get up to the 35 hours to get the additional, there's an additional $15,000 that's being requested through the CARES Act.
Okay.
As well, Mr. Chairman.
And the town administrator account is under, we didn't spend everything on the town administrator because we didn't have a town administrator on last year.
Okay.
And that 15,000 is guaranteed, or we're applying for it?
We're applying for it, but it's essentially certain. And the now former town accountant, he's working with us to make sure that before he is officially done, that reimbursement request is in, and that all of our CARES Act reimbursements are before the state, so we don't have to worry about that. Actually going forward with our new town accountant.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's all I have for you guys, I think. Good videos.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for making us first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
No, I'm good. Peter, I'm here for the night, so what do you think?
You sure?
Yep,
So I'll just take them in order then, that I've got them here. Got conservation, $500 from the conservation agent salary line over to professional and technical. Those for unanticipated legal fee. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You were next anyway.
oh, okay.
Building department, $3,000.
I haven't looked at the agenda, I'm sorry.
$3,000 from demolition of structures over to the electrical inspection line. That was over the 17,000 that was in there by 2110. Jim had mentioned that he requested 20,000 last year. The budget got adjusted down to 17. I looked at my notes, I don't see why we adjusted it, nor why Ed wouldn't have reached out. But end of the day, the line's a little under, so it just needs to go. The demolition line, we really didn't spend anything last year on. 28,000, I think, in there last year, and we spent about 3.
Right. That fluctuates from year to year, we sort of level funded that every year at 30,000. Over the past 10 years, we had a lot of structures that dwindling. There are still a few, but with the pandemic last year and everything else, I didn't feel it was appropriate to knock the houses down, so that's why there was a surplus there. I don't know why my budget was cut either. I don't want to grandstand, but in the 10 years I've been here, I've never seen my budget cut without my prior knowledge or input. So I would just hope it doesn't happen again in the future. I have no problem if you're balancing a budget and you need to take from some of my lines to do that, but I would really appreciate you being involved.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't see it in my notes why it was adjusted, just that it was adjusted.
I mean, I'm pretty fiscally responsible. I needed the $3,000, so it was obvious that I budgeted the right amount. So, yeah, just in the future, the selectmen in here, I like them in here too. There's a problem with my budget writing, we can discuss that, but my budget's been on par for 10 years. I've never asked for a transfer. So, thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's from group health insurance, $1,500 benefits health insurance over to workers' comp, the benefits workers' comp. Anticipate additional billing for FY21. Mike had mentioned that we're roughly $300 under right now, but in anticipation of the audit coming this year, that way we have it funded. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Almost those.
Well, of course.
Group health insurance, $15,000 from benefits health insurance over to public buildings for rentals, leases, communications line, is that what that is? CUNM?
Yes, in the public buildings and properties line item.
Okay. The description to ensure temporary emergency space for library operations. So the question I have for that, I'm like, is that's to house the actual administration of the library?
So, as of Labor Day, the Mass Board of Library Commissioners are requiring the libraries to be fully open in order to maintain accreditation. So, as we know, we only have one egress, at the current, current library. We actually just procured, actually the engineering. Sorry, I'm okay. We just procured the engineering and services to do the design work. So in the meantime, Jim and I, we reached out to building modular companies, and for like a year to rent a 60 by 12 modular like for a year, it's about $31,000 plus about $8,000 in one-time setup fees as well. And so talking and working with the library director today, we actually took a road trip to Littleton and looked at a trailer. It's anticipated right now that the trailer would actually house some children's services, programming and functions at this point right now. It would only be for a year, and we really, in the next year and beyond, have to have a deeper conversation about how we're gonna go forward with the library.
Where would it be?
It would be at the Briggs House property.
Okay.
It already has the water and sewer hookup.
They're stubbed to the property, so we have the infrastructure there. But I'm not sure if you alluded to this, but we're risking losing our library accreditation, so we're sort of really in the crunch. The building needs and study committee, this was not an option that was discussed, but we didn't really understand the urgency that come September, it's do or die, so we need to find a quicker fix. So this is what we came up with. It's certainly not where the library is going to reside, but it would help us. And I believe the librarian has worked with the state and LC, who said that that would be a step in the direction, so we would be able to maintain our status. But then this is going to snowball into a bigger discussion about what's the next step, because we're not going to have a building in a year. So we need to have a deeper discussion. And Robert's on the committee with me. We're going to start, hopefully meet at the end of this month and start that discussion.
Does going to something like this bump us up at all in the list? But, no, they've been on the list, no.
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I think we're number 14 now, but that's to put the addition onto the Andrew Carnegie library, which.
We're thinking about just starting all brand new again, coming up with a different plan.
Okay.
I think if we come up with a more viable plan, we'll have a better chance of actually seeing this happen.
When will that process start?
Our committee's gonna meet later this month, and hopefully that's gonna initiate it.
And this trailer is fully plumbed with accessible,
It has an accessible restroom, yes, that's all it has, so there's no separate hand washing facilities, but the library none is required, so it's a 700 square foot module, it's not small, it's good size.
can you tell me, like, in comparison to what we have over at the school?
There's 6 units there, it's one of the
One of
six.
those, so like one of the classrooms.
Right. So it's an accessible ramp, it's skirted, it's an accessible ramp, 2 means of egress, accessible restroom, which takes up most of the center area of the structure, but it is an accessible building. So, the ride to Littleton today was
Really?
worthy.
Yes.
It was great because the librarian and one of the trustees got a visual. It was part of the procurement process to do our diligence. But we really brainstormed on the way home what services could go over there. I think it's still a little bit open-ended, but we had some good healthy discussion today about how to keep the library services available to the public. And again, nobody wants to have the library in a trailer. This is really temporary.
And it's heated and cooled.
Yes.
So we've already spent some money on modular.
No.
There's money already budgeted in but there's money already budgeted, so they only need a $15,000 transfer to get up to that roughly $40,000.
Okay, to cover the rest of the lease payment and
Right.
so.
That's a 12-year lease payment.
12 months,
Sorry, 12-month lease payment. There's a holdover though. In other words, if a year from now we find ourselves where we need another month or two, then they do have a holdover, month-to-month holdover, which would go over and above that amount. But it's not like 12 months, we get kicked out of it and they take it back. However, I want publicly to stress, I don't support the library staying there. We need to find another solution to the problem.
Realistically, though, you did start saying this is a year from now, we're still gonna need it. So,
I think this is a 3-step process, and this is what we're gonna discuss in earnest. This is step 1, to hold on to our state status.
Step two is, what are we gonna do with the library? Are we gonna build a new library, we're gonna start from scratch? If so, I can tell you right now, it's a 5-year plan. Not gonna happen for another 5 years. So what do we do a year from now until that happens? That's the void that we need to fill.
So first we need to get to that.
Do we go somewhere in new space? Do we try to temporarily go to another town building? I don't know those answers. That's for the committee to start the dialogue on.
The modular is like readily available.
30 days from the date we give them the go-ahead, which has to be in the days ahead.
Yes, yeah, like we need to lock that down now.
Yeah. And then it'll be another 3 weeks, once it's delivered, for me to hook up the water, electricity, and the sewer to it. So it'll be about 2 months from the date that the town administrator places the order, that will be open to the public.
Probably not a question for you, but I would assume that during the course of the last budget meetings, there was a discussion on certain services that handicapped children couldn't use at the library because they were in the basement. I would assume that they would at least be looking at something like that.
Right. So there's 2 things that are gonna happen concurrently over the next 12 months. We'll have that facility that will house some library services, and then we'll also be working on the existing building, which ultimately won't be the library's home, but in the interim is gonna service the library. The work that's gonna be done is accessibility, accessible restroom. We don't know what we're gonna be able to afford at first, but we know we'll at least get people to the first floor. The ground level, low level will never be used again in that building for whoever the tenant is. And the second floor will never be used for occupied space. That will just be for storage. So at the very least, over the next 12 months, you'll have the modular and you'll have the first level of the library, which can be reopened once that accessibility issue is addressed. And as we said, we engaged an engineer.
Yes.
He did some site work today, so we're on the road to the path anyway.
So that, with the idea that the engineer would do the second means of egress and the accessible bathroom.
Yes.
Yes.
We may have to split the 2 projects up to accessible second means of egress, accessibility, and the bathroom may not happen right away, but we're gonna try. We just have to see what the construction environment is. When we originally talked about the number to get this done, this was way before the pandemic and before this inflation that recently struck the construction industry. So we're gonna have to, the engineering is solidified, we'll get that done, and then I think we'll split them up into 2 projects. But they'll both be done because we want that building to be repurposed some way, somehow in the future.
If this is on order and we can't get it set up by September 1st, do we lose accreditation, or because it's on order getting set up?
I don't think that's an option. I think we have to have it modular here.
Full has to be set up by September 1st.
If you do this appropriation tonight, Mr. Bones is probably gonna call tomorrow and place the order, so.
Yeah, we're gonna order it. I mean, I have to give like a lot of credit to the library director as well. Like she's been keeping like everyone at the state level in the loop, like so they're on board, they understand where we're at and what we're trying to do as well. And I was worried that if we didn't, like in August, if they found out, arguably they could have had a problem then, but we've been bringing them along with us.
And that's gonna be solidified with a contract, so we'll actually have a signed document, it won't be just discussion, so.
Yeah, no, it's helpful.
We're not gonna lose the accrediting, we wanna make sure of that.
Yeah, just think about shipping time and all that sort of stuff with everything that's
The
happening.
good thing is that we think that one of the vendors that we may go with is worked in town before, I have a relationship with him, so I think he'll come through for us. Hopefully.
Any other questions? Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? From the town administrator department, $11,000 from the salary town administrator to board of selectmen, communications, commingled billings. The account last year was funded below what was needed. And I wanna say this year's budget was double what last year's budget was prior.
Yeah, like this was, like we brought it up to what the real cost was going into the FY '22 budget, so hopefully that represents actually a real number that will be fine going forward.
Again, the town administrator salary wasn't necessary, wasn't needed because we didn't have one all year last year. Questions? Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communications, $3,000 from overtime, full-time operators over to Communications IMC software support. Software enhancements that were made after setting the budget at the beginning of the year. Average quote in prior years have been 14,000, and this past year went up to 19,000. IMC support software is just what they use for the phones, right?
Yes, like the dispatch and everything too, yeah, like, and as I mentioned, the quote, actually heading into FY '21 was always just shy of $15,000, but they went up. Like our vendor went up actually pretty substantially in FY '21. And by the time we understood that they were going up, we already had the budget set for '21.
Any questions on? Your vote, all in favor? Opposed? The last one. This one I think might be the new one.
Yes.
From the Treasurer's Department, $100 benefits, health insurance, over to Treasurer benefits, life insurance. It's $51.75 from $51.74.
Yes, there was an increase in the
More employees picking up life insurance. Any questions on that?
You said 251.75 from 51.74?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks. All that I've got for transfers. Next on the agenda, we've got to discuss reserve fund transfer.
Yeah, yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do feel bad at coming, actually before the FinCom for like a reserve fund transfer, only 2 weeks into the start of the fiscal year. But as I think everyone all is aware, we are going through a transition in our town accounting office right now. Our town accountant, actually our former town accountant, he went to the town of Raynham. He worked with us actually 1 day a week through the end of the fiscal year, and he is going to help us close out and reconcile the cash balances for the month of June. But that how it leaves out the year end, like another free cash certification. And additionally, the Board of Selectmen, about a week and a half ago-ish now, entered into negotiations with hiring a new town accountant, which is extremely exciting. Our new town accountant is a CPA, but she doesn't have a lot of local government experience. In the $15,000 reserve. Transfer would allow us to bring a consultant who's really good at this. This is what he specializes in, Eric Kinchev. He's currently working his firm in the town of Somerset. He does work all over. I've worked with him in other places before. And he knows his stuff, he's good at it. He's great at training people. And the hope is that he can, through this $15,000, he would be able to help us close out 21. And going forward, he would also help us train and onboard on town accountant. And also, as of the beginning of April, we have a new assistant town accountant, so he would also be able to train them about how to work, and separate and delegate the different responsibilities in the office as well. It's exciting. I mean, it's unfortunate, that we need this now, but it's essential at this point to make sure we go forward in a healthy way.
When do you expect the new town accountant to start?
hopefully August 2nd. Her contract is being finalized now, and hopefully if all goes according to plan, it will be finalized with the Board of Selectmen tomorrow night.
So you're thinking a month's worth of salary from the town accountant can be transferred over,
If we needed to, right?
that's a part of it. And I don't know what our savings were last year in terms of the town accountant, on the salary line item. But that's gonna just roll to free cash, so we can fund some of it from free cash as well. And minimize the amount that we take out of the reserve right away. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. As opposed to reducing the reserve this
Understood.
14 days into the 13 days into the year.
Yeah, and we typically were funding 50,000 a year, and we only did 35 this year.
To start, right?
So I think it's probably a better way for us to fund it. I know we don't have any say over free cash right now, but certainly a month's worth of salary for the town accountant is gonna be roughly $5,000-6,000, I would think, at a minimum.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay. So that should cover half, we're looking for 15.
yeah.
Yeah, it's about 7 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's about half.
So,
And then the 15, the 100 hours that were proposed would be between now and November?
Or would it not
October,
start until we onboard
I'm sorry, what?
the 100 hours?
Yep.
And I don't mean to speak for you.
No.
Would that start immediately or?
Yes, because we also have. Yes, at this point, we also have to start closing out with the year end as well and wrapping up that. We received $7,000, that would be offset. So I guess if there's an understanding that essentially the $7,000 we'd be saving could be transferred at the special town meeting into professional technical from the town accountant's salary line. And then the other half of that would come from free cash. Okay.
do we have to wait for a town meeting to do that? To move the salary line to the expense?
Yes.
We do.
Go for personnel now.
Yeah, or we can do it at the end of the year, so we're doing a transfer, but I think actually getting ahead of it at special town meeting.
Right.
Yeah, might be better.
Yeah.
So then I think what we're saying is we'll modify this request at $8,000? Or do you want to do $8,500 just to be safe?
So this would be, the request is to transfer it from the reserve account, if we were gonna hold it and do free cash.
I don't think we need to do that. I don't think I'm not. I don't know the number that we're getting back from in terms of free cash.
Get it
But
out from last year.
we could at special move from free cash to replenish reserve, right?
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
So we'll have firmer numbers then, so I think that's probably the way to go. Is just
Transfer 8 now.
transfer 8 now, or 8,500 if we're not, we said it's about 7,000. So 8,500, just to be safe. And then in the fall, at special, move from free cash, 8,500 replenish reserve, and then move from free cash the remaining amount to get us to 15,000 to pay for these services. But for tonight's, the purpose of tonight, do we just transfer the whole 15,000? We know how we're gonna we know how we're gonna fund reserve and do everything. I think that's the cleanest way. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then we can offset everything going into special town meeting once we know free cash and we can backfill the reserve fund.
Right.
And we'll know, we'll also know how much salary we'll transfer from the salary line item
Yep,
of the town accountant. Well, and we'll know exactly how much we saved.
yep.
I use that term loosely, saved, how much we didn't spend on salary for the entire month of July.
That makes perfect sense.
So, okay. So I think it's leave it at 15,000 and then we'll.
Leave the motion as is,
we'll-
with our understanding
Fund
that
reserve.
we're
That makes sense.
gonna replenish. Any other questions? Do you vote, all in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much. That was really important. Thank you.
We have a little vested interest in it, and we'd like to know what free cash is too.
Huh?
I said, we have a little vested interest, we'd like to know what free cash is too.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Robert, do you have anything on capital outlay?
No, it's mostly in the municipal building, stuff that we're going through and trying to figure out. Where in terms of capital outlay, the next piece of the puzzle is getting a full process in place. Having, meeting with department heads, probably just a single meeting, rolling out the process, which is as soon as you know you need something, get it in front of capital outlay. That kind of thing. So,
And we really only met once, and we actually did yeoman's work, so, the next meeting, we actually should get into identifying problems in buildings. Certainly libraries are gonna take precedent, but at the same time, we're gonna go through the rest of the municipal buildings and see what we have. We came up with a pretty good system, so we'll have those database that we can feed off of.
Is the committee basically you two right now?
now, the town accountant is a member, town administrator.
I'm a liaison.
The liaison to the
Fire
board.
chief.
And then there's supposed to be actually 2 at-large positions, one,
What about
just townspeople, one appointed by the board of selectmen, one appointed by us.
So the FinCom actually has one of those remaining at live appointments to be able to make.
That might be not on us.
Not on us, right?
Okay.
How do we usually go about doing that?
It's usually on the volunteer portion of the website. So I'm not certain if it's been posted yet or not.
And it would be announced at Selectmen's meeting?
Yeah, we can do that for social media also. We can highlight that actually there are 2 vacancies, both the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom one. And then the Board of Selectmen would appoint one, and then the FinCom would appoint the other member.
So you guys just asked for,
It is good.
Interested, yes. Application is to apply to the town website.
Do that filling positions? Vacancies, are you filling in positions?
A few, but there was a lot of
There's
business.
a lot of vacancies, isn't
Is there a way to engage the cable committee so that, when it runs through the text version
Question on
on Channel 9, that we can start posting these vacancies? And it's not just our committee, obviously, it's townwide.
Very good idea.
okay, so there's a lot of committees that are,
Yeah, but we were at some point just reading the whole list and saying how many members that they need, but the list was so long, and it just, maybe Saturday after the firecracker event, maybe some people had interest in some of the committees were represented. So hopefully, I think somebody wants to join the human rights, for example.
Yeah, we got 2 volunteer forms, in the past 2 days, which was exciting.
That's good.
This committee though isn't staggered because of it, we're actually still doing pretty well. But there are other committees that really need some help, so.
Anything else, Robert? We don't have minutes to approve, let's send the
So,
template, of what we've done in the past, and then send it off to you too. Does anyone else have anything else? Welcome, Jeff. You have public. No motion to adjourn?
Okay, congratulations. I think.
Yeah.
we need to form a second.
Second, and then that's it.
What time is it? 7:34. Do you have a timestamp, Bill, that number